Mr. Betcher's online, but I will be chairing. So call to order. And then roll call, please.
Jesse Betcher,
Here.
Ed Peters,
Here.
Jason Weaver,
Here.
Mark Elway,
Here.
Brian Bissonnette,
Here.
Kevin Shelton.
Here.
You have a full quorum.
Okay, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19 statutes.
Okay, at this time we have public comments. I have one sheet here from Linda Zilmer.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. And I'm using public comment to address some specific agenda items and non-agenda items. With regard to agenda number 9, I believe, which is roles and responsibilities, I would appreciate if this committee would consider including agriculture as part of its roles and responsibilities. In past organizations of county government here, there used to be an agriculture and extension committee, and then extension was rolled into economic development and agriculture was wrapped all together. Being that you do have a farm representative on this committee, it may make sense for agriculture to come under roles and responsibilities of this committee. Also, with the potential for streamlining roles and responsibilities, the motorized and non-motorized trail groups report to a number of different committees. They're at the Economic Development Extension Committee as well as this committee. And rather than attending multiple committee meetings per month, maybe their primary appearance can be under one committee, whether it's this one or other ones. And I also want to bring up something as new county board members or members of the public get involved with motorized and non-motorized trail in Sawyer County. There's an economic impact that is being study that's being developed that's reported to another committee, and yet some of the trail issues get covered here, and then highway has been covering the road route issues, so it's piecemeal. So some things to consider as the budget comes up is maybe it's time for the county to stop insuring a foreign corporation, the Swedish Pension Corporation, for motorized trail use across their private lands. And maybe it's time for Sawyer County to back out of the MOU with the DNR, where the county assumes responsibility for managing the Tuscovia Trail. So there's a lot of things that go on, as well as the other agenda item I wanted to talk to is, should the county be purchasing more trail right of way? Maybe a holistic view of trails, motorized and non-motorized, revenues versus cost should be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item for bid is approval of last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion to
I'll
approve.
second that.
A second. Oh, call for a vote on the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have any events coming up?
None for this month.
Okay, that's land records and county surveyor department.
Hands in the field.
Hands in the field. Okay. Review board policy and procedure manual updates. Discussion possible action. Is that like 80-page thing that's in here?
No,
What is this?
the plan? No, that's.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's actually on the agenda twice. It's also under number 14.
Okay,
The intent was for the committees to look at their roles and responsibilities that were in the board policy and procedure manual. Just looking up here.
okay, missed them.
Yeah, so under number 14 is, I had looked at last month. And actually, I'm just looking here at the edited version. You should have received the full board policies and procedures manual updates as they were last week. There was a couple additions to the to this committee's roles and responsibilities. In the one you received, the full copy included oversee management of the county forest per Wisconsin statute 2011 and approve portion of our conservation land information plans that are required by government bodies. So those items were added from last month's meeting.
So do we have any action on those?
If you had any more comments, it'd be to edit the roles and responsibility to this committee to be so that those would be included in the policy manual that will go to the county board for approval.
Which would require a vote.
So has anybody looked it over and saw any issues?
Hey, Mark, it's Jesse. Yeah, I mean, I looked it over and I think that everything that we wanted to include and change has been done by Andy and his staff. So, I mean, I didn't have anything further. I think we can, I don't know if we have to vote on anything or if we just let it go on to the county.
I think you just let it go on to the county unless you had any other changes. We discussed it last month.
Okay, so no need for action?
No, because you'll act on the board and a full manual.
Okay. So then, number 10, Sawyer County Forestry Department?
Oh, motorized, sorry.
Yep.
Okay. We have, this is Kathy with the Sawyer County Alliance. We've moved the trail counters over to the eastern part of the county. We continue to get high ATV counts and we're looking to purchase more counters so that we can, it's such a large land mass here. It's difficult to move the counters around on a regular basis. So I'd like to purchase more and we're working on that. We've finished most of the bulldozing of the trails. Grading has been ongoing, especially down in the Tuscobia. We're starting brushing in early September. All the trails need a pretty good haircut by this time. Crews are working on updating signage as we speak. We've had several people out sporadically working on that. On DNR lands, we did apply for a grant for a pavilion along the Tuscobia, and we did receive, I think we received that grant, or that's in the works. We're trying to decide on the best location for that.
What was it? Which trail?
Tuscobia. Okay. And through several other committees I'm on, we are also working on legislation to change the DNR law on business signage on state lands. So that's kind of an ongoing thing. It's going to take us a while. And that seems to be a pretty popular subject on several committees that I'm on. So I'm getting double whammy working on that as well. And lastly, I just want to respond to Ms. Zolmer's comment. The reason that I attend different meetings is because I'm reporting on different aspects of the trail systems at each committee. So at economic development, I'm reporting on how the trails and ATV usage affects our economy. Here, I'm reporting more on the physical aspects of the trail system. And then public works, I'm never on the agenda there unless I've requested a route. So I think it's a valid reason to remain on the agenda for the committees that I'm on the agenda for.
Thank you.
Hey, Kathy, Mark, I have a question if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the report, Kathy. Is good as usual. I just have a question on the counters. You mentioned maybe purchasing more. How much do those cost, first of all? And then the second part is what are we getting out of that? Like we know that with the counters we have, there's a huge, there's a lot of ATV traffic, but what are we doing about that? Are we using that in any way to our advantage to help, justify grants or anything?
It's going to be very useful. The counters, first of all, the individual infrared counters that we've been using cost just over $600 each. We've already purchased the data tracking plan, which was in the initial purchase. That was like $2,400, and that included 3 counters. We're looking at, I would like to purchase 5 more counters and have 2 counters in each quadrant of the county and leave them long-term. The data we're collecting is very useful for a number of reasons. We are developing an economic impact report. It's going to take us a while to do that, but having the counter data is critical to that report. For one thing, we plan to use it, just to prove that the ATV usage is very important. The trails are heavily traveled. We also can use it when we are requesting grants for a specific trail, rehab grants, things like that, to prove that that trail really needs the money for rehab work because it's getting so heavily used.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay.
Excuse me. I can report on non-motorized.
Oh, okay. And
Ron
you are?
Virgin with CAMA, Chemin Area Mountain Bike Association.
Thank
We're in our high peak season, both for riding and for trail work. Trail work is going on all around the county and also up in the Batesville County on our trails. One thing in particular to point out is a very active effort on the Hatchery Creek Trail from Hatchery Creek Park all the way north to Mosquito Brook Road, where we have another trailhead. That's one of our oldest trails, and it's been well used over the years and has aged, as you might imagine, in 15 years of use. So we're going back to that trail and a lot of our other older trails over time to do a rehab effort and bring them back to kind of their original standards and original condition to encourage more people to get back out on the trail. Some people have moved away from riding that particular trail because of the way it has aged. So what we're doing now is to smooth things out, remove roots and rocks, install better drainage devices, which are basically modifications of the trail surface to allow water to drain better. We're almost complete with 6 weeks of hand labor that we contracted with the Wisconsin Conservation Corps. They've made a very large difference in the trail and gotten very positive responses from the riders as they come through. We're also doing some machine rehab work on the southern end that's been ongoing for the last 2 summers, and we should be completing that this season as well. So that's our big effort right now in Sawyer County, and it's coming along very well.
Thank you, sir. So any questions, any more questions on motorized or non-motorized? Okay, so go on to Greg.
Okay, for July, we had 9 active timber sales listed. Currently, right now, sale values that's sold and uncut on file is just over 5 million. Revenue for the month was 128,000. Our year to date is just over 720,000. We're a little bit off the mark, what we usually are, but we're hoping markets will pick up in late summer, early fall here. So, the wood's there, it's sold. It's just a matter of getting the contractors in to cut it. So just been a little slower start than normal, dealing with some of the market issues. So I don't expect any major issues hitting numbers, hitting our revenue goal for the year, but we've got some ground to make up coming up for the rest of the year. So Sale inspections are on target for the level of activity. No tract establishments turned in for the month. It's been primarily field work right now. Recon, we're over goal on that for our goal for the year for acres. Good Neighbor Authority, we didn't have many hours put in July at all due to other commitments. We did just finish up a contract that was done on middle of June. So we'll be submitting a reimbursement on that project shortly on that contract, and we'll be signing off on our next contract as well. Oak Wilt, we're just starting to look at some of our previous treatment sites from last year. I believe the DNR will be doing a flight at some point, either this month or early September. Nothing new to report on Emerald Ash Borer. Mountain Bike Trail, we covered that. Berkey Trail, nothing to report. Nothing else new to report at this time.
Okay, any questions? Going once, going twice.
I do have a question, and Greg, when I first saw the figures on the sales, I noticed a number of sales that are, well, 2017, and they have quite a bit remaining, at least for one of them. Do those ever get rebid?
Yeah, they do. Generally, we only do a 4-year contract, but we did the 1-year extension without increase with the COVID issues and the Verso closure. So a couple of those sales, when we come up on those, probably in December, where if they're not cut, we will take them back. We'll claim the letter of credit or the performance bond, and then we'll reestablish and resell the sales at that time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no further questions. DNR forestry report.
Okay, there was a forest certification audit last week in Florence, Forest, Marinette, and Oconto counties. From what I've heard, there were no major findings. This was just a surveillance audit. Next year will be a full recertification audit, and Sawyer County will be part of that. I would assume Doug Brown here in the coming weeks will be putting out a report on the findings. And this will also be discussed at the WCFE meeting in September, which will be held in Minocqua. So when I find out a little bit more, we can bring that to the committee at that point. North Central Regional Master Plan. There's a comment period that's open until August the 15th. Here locally, the Flambeau River State Forest and the Chippewa Flowage is just, they're just going to be doing some updating, but the Tuscobia Trail, there's a full rewrite on that. So again, the comment period is open until August the 15th, and I have a website listed on the report that you can go to, and it'll tell you how to submit comments after you review the information. Wildlife, the NRB approved the antlerless harvest quota of 1,050. The tag allocation was for 3,000 tags for private and 875 for public. Those tags will go on sale on Monday, August the 15th. The 2022 elk hunting season. This year will be the last year that the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation will be raffling off a tag. So that'll be happening on, or the deadline will be on Saturday, August the 13th. And the tickets are available on the RMEF's website, and they're available for $10 each. And then field work, wildlife is currently doing game bird surveys like turkey and grouse, and deer observation surveys. Those are currently underway. And mowing and maintenance of wildlife openings and trails is also taking place. That's what all I have.
Okay. Any questions on the DNR forestry report?
Yeah, just a quick question on the elk survey. I I know this spring and summer, there was a number of people out trying to get some counts on some of the calves and stuff. Just wondering if you had any reports or updates on the strength of our herd.
I would have to get back with you on that at the next meeting. Because I didn't touch base with Josh on that, but that's something that could be discussed at the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, just wondering if the numbers are going up or remaining the same or drop because of wolves or anything like that. All right, thank you.
Okay, next item is a proposal to allow Class 1 e-bikes on the Sawyer County trails.
Okay, I'll kick off on this one. E-bikes, we've been in discussion with Canva for several years as these e-bikes become more popular. So we did come to a point here where we have an official request to do a trial period on e-bikes on the county forest trails that are open to mountain bikes at this time. I guess at this point, I'd like to hand it off to Ron to get a little bit more detail about the proposal.
Sure, thank you. So as Greg mentioned, we've been discussing this for a number of years. The use of e-bikes has grown in popularity. Sales has grown rapidly. I'd like to just give you a little additional background. Much of it's in the proposal, but the use is broad in the sense that it has application for folks that are perhaps less physically fit, may have some other physical or medical limitation. They're used for, there's a utility to them as well for special events or traveling into the backcountry for hunting even, and as well as for emergency use and getting out on the trails to perform trail maintenance. But the broader public is also embracing the e-bike because it is easy. It is easier. It's easier to climb a hill. It's opening up the sport to more and more people. If I go any further, I do want to make some distinctions about the different classes of e-bikes because that's a big deal. We're speaking strictly about Class 1 e-bikes, and they're broken down by their power and by their the mechanics. So the Class 1 is what we're talking about, and that has a small electric motor, provides assistance while pedaling only. So if someone stops pedaling, there's no longer any assistance. Commonly referred to as pedal assist bikes. And they have a top end of 20 miles per hour while pedaling. So you can, once it gets to 20 miles per hour, the motor cuts out. So you can still pedal and work really hard to try to get to go faster, or going downhill, it would of course go faster. These are recognized as classified as non-motorized by the Consumer Product Safety Act. But the other classes are different. Class 2, it has a throttle, it does not have pedals. So the throttle is much more like a motorcycle. Can reach up to 20 miles per hour. Class 3 does have pedals, but has a higher top end of 28 miles per hour. By way of comparison, a Class 1 e-bike is rated power rating of 750 watts. That equates to roughly 1 horsepower. So if you're familiar with other motorized engines, that's as close as we can compare. Canva had concerns early on. We thought perhaps that these bikes would be too fast for the average rider to control safely. We feared for impacts to the trails, skidding, spinning tires because of the power going up hills, and there's some social interaction between people who don't like e-bikes because they're not doing the work that the others are doing on the trail. That's a bunch of bull, in my opinion. The other two concerns are legitimate, but we've come to terms with those. We feel that most riders are going to ride to the level that they're capable of. They get faster than that, they realize they're in over their head, they slow down, and the next time out, they're going to take it easy. The physical impacts so far have not really proven out to be anything. We've looked at research done by the International Mountain Bike Association. Studies say the impacts are no greater than conventional bikes. Challenge there is to monitor and assess these impacts. It's very hard to do. e-bikes are already out on the forest trails, whether they've been technically formally permitted or not. It's hard to, you can visually tell what it is because it has a larger portion of the framework. But otherwise, monitoring is the trail impacts is very tricky. One, we don't know how many e-bikes are even on the forest or on the trails, so how can you quantify something? But then it gets pretty difficult to have any kind of objective measurement of impacts. It's mostly going to be a casual observation. But even then, do you attribute that impact to a regular bike or an e-bike? It's kind of a conundrum that we're up against, but we're at the point now where we would like to move ahead with a trial basis, see if there are any impacts based on our own observations, and use this as a way to get more people out on the trails. What we'll do to inform people is to post signage at all the trailheads informing that these trails are open to e-bikes, encourage people to ride safely as they would otherwise. Post all the same information on the Canva website, newsletter, all of our channels. We'll do our best to monitor what we can. And then in the end, we're still responsible for maintaining the trails. So obviously we don't want something out there that's going to cause greater impact, more work for us. We have plenty of work to do as it is. So if there should be any kind of minor impact, we're prepared to do the maintenance that's required. So at this point, we're looking to get a 1-year trial, come back next year, report, and then if all is good, have the comprehensive land use plan amended to include e-bike use. So it's kind of where we're at. Happy to answer any questions.
I have one. Seems kind of silly, but is the tread any different on an e-bike than it is on a regular mountain bike?
Not really. First, there are different manufacturers. They make all levels of or styles of bikes with e-bike technology. You have a city bike, you could have a cruiser bike, a road bike, mountain bike. Mountain bikes typically have a 2-inch wide tire at the low end, and then they get larger as you get up into like fat bikes, the big winter bikes for 3.5 to 5-inch tires. But the tread is just a knobby tire like you would see on a mountain bike, and that's really the best tire tread to use on a dirt surface. It has traction, but not too much traction.
Reason I ask, because there's gonna be some anal people out there. And they're gonna say, well, they're messing up the trails, and they're gonna go, see, look at that tread right there. That's an e-bike. It's the only reason I bring it up, because
That's the
everybody knows they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody else? Oh,
Yeah, quick question. I think, Ron, you said something about you're going to put up some signage saying that at the trailheads or whatever, is there going to be much cost associated with that? Is that really necessary? Can you just put it on the website?
Well, the cost would be absorbed by Canva in the first place, but so it would be fairly minimal.
good idea.
I think to be responsible about this, we should do it in as many avenues as we can initially, just to make people aware. The ironic thing is when, assuming this is approved, we've also pitched this to Bayfield County Forest, and it was approved there. We're working with the National Forest as well, and that's obviously taking a little bit longer. But I think the ironic thing is, assuming this is approved, and we make an announcement that e-bikes are permitted on the trails, people are going to say, "Oh, I didn't realize they weren't permitted," or so it'll be all of a sudden. So it's sort of a non-issue to some folks, but I do think it's the responsible thing to get as much information out as we can, so there's some clarity and they understand that we're talking class 1 e-bikes only. We do not want to see class 2 or 3 e-bikes on the trails. So that's our position.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any action that we need to take? Is there a actual resolution or anything, or is this just the verbal, we're gonna do it?
I have I guess maybe a question here, but I've seen mountain bikers going faster than 20 miles an hour. So why would there be a difference in allowing different classes? Some of these bikers are pretty darn fast. It just doesn't make sense to me that you would differentiate, between the classes, either allow them or don't.
Well, the fact is, the places where you can go that fast are more likely to be gravel roads, 2-track roads where the surface is not as rugged as a single track mountain bike trail. You look in the Shawinigan Fat Tire Festival, for example, the 40-mile race from here to Cable. They will average up in the 17, 18 mile per hour range, and these are elite riders. So the average guy, they don't do that going downhill, perhaps, but I think it's more of a safety concern when if you've got a bike that can under pedal power go 28 miles an hour, someone's going to get in trouble and get hurt. That's our concern, and then there may be a higher level of impact on the trail as well. One thing I didn't mention, on a regular mountain bike, if you're going up a steep hill on a dirt surface, you put it in a low gear. Sometimes you'll want to stand up to get a little more force. Oftentimes, you'll spin the back tire by doing that. On an e-bike, and we've tried to do this and spin the back tire. You can't. The way it engages is very smooth, and you just flow away up the hill without that kind of force on the tire. So that's an advantage actually in minimizing the impact.
I'd like to play devil's advocate, and you have a hard time distinguishing between e-bikes and regular bikes other than the housing on the frame. How are you going to distinguish between a class 1 and a class 3? Because if you open this up to e-bikes, I think you're going to have class 2s and class 3s when you get on those trails.
Well, I think class 2 would be easy enough to see because they don't have pedals. Class 3 might be more difficult. I have not even seen a class 3 e-bike, so I couldn't tell you what it looks other than there may be some indication on it. So that could be a challenge. I'm willing to admit that, but like in any enforcement situation, we can only do so much. I'll study that a little further. I know a friend in Cable owned a class 3 mountain bike, sold it because he felt it was too fast for him, older guy. But they probably tend to look pretty similar, so it might be a challenge.
And just, keep that in mind. I mean, you give them an inch, they're gonna take a mile, and if you open it up to e-bike, you're gonna have kind of the floodgates wide open.
I think the tubing, as it, right, the frame there is a
Right.
little bit bigger, but like you say, it's not, I don't believe it's that much difference that you're gonna be able to see it go by and, oh, that's a class 3.
And ultimately, we aren't out there policing the trails any more than anyone else is. It's gonna be a little bit of peer pressure. And if some of our trail leaders or volunteers and trail stewards should encounter someone like, that's obviously an class 3 bike, if there's a way to identify it. We will encourage them to have a soft conversation about it, conversation, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, just to dovetail on that, a lot of this is gonna be education versus enforcement, and from a land manager standpoint, my concern when we talked about this a couple years ago was we really didn't have a definition of what these bikes were. I like this breakdown of the classes because my initial concern was not so much on the trail use, but is where do we draw the line between a bicycle or a small motorcycle accessing close forest roads that it's not permitted to. I don't have any problems with this proposal. I like the description. We have a hard description of what these bikes are. With the class 1 proposal, I don't think we're gonna have any impact. We're really gonna see any issues, but a lot of this is gonna be education. So the way this is worded, the way it's presented, I think we can really work with some of the other issues if we have, and it's just the worry that also we, is a moped and e-bike, that's the can of worms that we're really hesitant about at first, but with the descriptions, the definitions, I don't have any issues with doing a proposal on this for a year.
I think it's very well written. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Ed Peters. Do we need to have a resolution on this? It doesn't appear that we have this in the form for us to act upon today. I'm just asking the question. I'm not sure.
I don't think this is we need a resolution for it for just a proposal like this, for a one-year trial. I think the committee has the authority just to approve the proposal as it's presented. We get to next year, if this all goes well and, you know, an amendment into the 15-year plan, then that would be a resolution at that point to amend the plan.
What do you think, Mr. Chair? Sound good?
I mean, maybe we need to check with Andy. Are we allowed to actually vote on this as a committee if it's not stated as such on the agenda?
It's not stated as action or not.
What do you think, Andy?
I'm thinking about it.
As a proposal, the inference is
Yeah,
some sort of action.
I think that word,
Yeah, I mean, it isn't listed specifically for action. You can bring it back next month and put it as an action. That's a concern. I don't think it's gonna be a huge deal either way. Because it is a trial period.
Yeah, I think maybe, I mean, you're the expert, but if it doesn't have to go to the full board and if it's just something that can be approved at this committee and doesn't require a public hearing, then I would think we could just vote to approve for a trial period. But, you know, I don't want to do anything that's against the rules.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, I think you might have just mentioned it is put a time period out. For a 1-year trial period.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to allow the CAMBA to do a 1-year trial period for including Class 1 electric bikes on the trails.
I'll second.
That was Jason.
yeah, Jason. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're back to Greg, correct?
Yep. Okay, you have before you the final draft of Sawyer County Forest Comprehensive Land Use Plan. We're a little bit behind on the schedule for this due to a lot of unforeseen circumstances, but we're finally to the point where we have the final approval. I did submit the plan to the DNR for review a few months ago, and I have a summary sheet of the suggested changes that came out of that review. So what you have before you is the finalized plan with the changes listed that was required from the state. The rest of the language the committee has seen and approved. So at this point, if there are no further questions on any of the changes, there is a resolution before you to approve the 15-year plan, and this would go on to the full county board as well. So this is our governing document for a 15-year period that we're statutorily required to have.
I had some, make sure I'm on the right, thinking the right thing here, because. 1 second, please.
Hey, Greg, I got a quick question while Mark's doing that. So I know it's 15-year plan, but that doesn't mean that, you know, 2 or 3 years from now, or even 1 year from now, we can't come back and you know, amend this or make some changes if necessary. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah, we make things change, this e-bike thing, we can amend, you can always change it, we just have to have a resolution that goes through committee and county board approval, so it's a flexible document.
See, there was some, I don't know, I think it's the one I was reading. There were some really weird things where some things just kind of hung out there. Am I on the right one or not? Under, let's see. Nope, wrong thing, sorry. Need some notes, but no, I can't find them.
Greg, this is Ed Peters.
Go ahead.
And this may have been covered in the review that you have there. I didn't really see that. But there were a couple of missing headings that I found, or I guess I didn't find. One for white pine, one for swamp hardwoods or ash. That the numbering of those headings, 820.2.1.4 and 820.2.1.6. Those headings just weren't there within the document. And other than that, I mean, those that's obviously just maybe a cut and paste error, and I don't have any problem. I would move to approve this document.
Yeah, we caught several of those grammatical or formatting issues, so hopefully we got them all.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. I noticed on page 21 of the overall documents, I guess it is. It's page 3. It's under development of the plan.
Mhm.
Okay, you got Wisconsin stats, which governs the county forest program, sideboards to which this plan must adhere. And then on the next page, approval. And it just looks to me like that word is like hanging there. It's not connecting to anything, is it? And it might be, and there's a couple other spots where same thing happened. You know what I'm saying?
I guess I don't see it on my copy. It could be just formatting issues.
Okay, it could, yeah, it could be, just because like I say, that paragraph there in development of the plan,
Mhm.
it ends with adhere. And the next page, the word approval is just,
Yeah, I think that's just a formatting thing on the digital copy. Maybe you're looking at, I think in
okay,
the hard copy, fine. But it sounded like Mr. Peters has made a motion to approve. Is that correct, Mr. Peters?
That's correct.
In that case, I would second that.
oh, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
But hold on.
Oh.
You should maybe ask Mark if there's any further
Oh.
discussion to
Oh,
be
I'm
sure.
sorry. Thank you. Any further discussion on it before we go forward? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So what's our next item? Summary, you just went over all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, closed session, Andy?
Yeah, we have 2 closed sessions on the agenda. One to discuss trail right away, and then one for land purchase proposals. Motions to go into session.
We need a motion to go into closed session, correct?
Correct.
I'll make the motion to go in the closed session.
I'll second.
Then we'll take a roll call vote. Jesse Betcher,
Yes.
Ed Peters,
Yes.
Jason Weaver,
Yes.
Mark Elwood,
Yes.
Brian Bissonnette,
Yes.
Karen Shepherd. Here.
Okay, we are now in closed session. All three.
Yeah, but right, Andy, we need separate.
Yeah, you need some.
Okay.
Okay, so we need a separate motion to enter closed session.
Make a motion to go back into closed session for our next issue.
I'll second it.
That was Betcher.
Just-
Yeah, it was just. Okay, motion, we gonna need roll call, correct?
Yep. Betcher,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Elwood,
Yes.
Bissonnette,
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, what's the next item up the list here? What are you on, zoning? Yeah, zoning.
Yeah, as far as the.
Oh, do we wanna? I'm sorry. Do we wanna let, us?
Do you want to invest anything about the proposal or we discussed it and how we get it?
No, other than the fact that it's 84, but if you take the vertical ups and down, it's really more like 160 acres. There's way more trees on it than 5 feet of property. And it's ready to log now. So that's.
Okay. Thank you. Go on to, zoning.
Yeah, as far as the zoning and conservation updates, multiple site visits for staff, including non-metallic mining inspections. I think we conducted our last inspection here a couple weeks ago, so those are all done for this year. We are doing shoreline mitigation agreements. There's certain aspects of land use permits that require some type of mitigation, so we're doing those annual checks. Several erosion control projects that are going on. And a few violations that we are addressing and going through citations with. Tree and shrub sale order is out for next year, so if you are interested in purchasing any trees, there's a link on the website for tree orders. Natalie Erler, the conservation technician, has been working as the advisor for the Grindstone and Lake Hayward Lake Management Plans. So she's been going to several of those meetings and helping those lake associations with those plans. And also attending other aquatic invasive species training. That's all I have for kind of my updates. I do have one other discussion action item, and that is regarding the Nelson Lake drawdown proposal. We've done this in the past. It is something that as the county-owned dam, we still would have to give approval in order to do the drawdown. But the drawdown is basically 2 years ago when we first did it, it worked out well because we needed to do a dam inspection, which one of the best ways to do an inspection is to be able to see the dam by lowering the water. But it was actually proposed to us by the DNR fisheries biologist, Max Wohlers, and that this would improve walleye habitat spawning. So again, they are looking at proposing another drawdown. This would be, below the ordered water level minimums, and that we would need approval from this committee in order to proceed with such. We did get a little bit of feedback from the last time we did the drawdown. That some of the anglers were upset that they didn't know that it was going to be dropped down to that amount. That some of the panfish were confined to certain deeper holes. But after we brought the water levels back up, no one was complaining about it at that point. And again, I mean, this is the DNR fisheries biologist that is really kind of spearheading this movement. So it would be my recommendation to approve the drawdown again for 2023.
Yeah, I'll make a motion then to approve that drawdown of, as stated, I think 2 feet.
I'll second that.
We have a, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and we have discussion. Maybe the gentleman like to speak.
I wrote the proposal. And not only is it a proposal for this year, but it's a proposal for the next 10 years, every other year. The thought that the first drawdown really didn't affect walleye spawning as much as we thought it could have. And there's a lot of other factors other than the water level that impact walleye spawning. So the thought is, if we continue to do this on a rotating basis, eventually we're going to hit the right sequence of events and actually have an impact. So it's not only for this time, but it's for every other year for the next 5 years.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
40 Christians,
And,
and I'm on the Nelson Lake Property Owners Association.
okay,
I'm also the town chairman of Levin's. Yes, I know.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We had a motion and a second. Any other conversation? All in favor, say aye.
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 All against, name. Motion passes. Okay. Need to sleep on me. USDA report.
Well, there's not much going on right now. There's a couple of deadlines that went by, like July 28th. There was a deadline for a field assistant position, which I know wasn't filled yet. Nobody even applied for the job. And then August 1st was a deadline to submit nominations for county committee. Sawyer County has a full committee members right now. There was just one position in Russ County that's open right now. August 15th is acreage reporting deadline for cabbage and processed snap beans. I know snap bean is being done right now in Barron County pretty heavily. And then in August 18th, deadline to apply for a program technician for Eau Claire and Rusk and Sawyer counties. That's about all.
Okay. Brian, you have anything?
Just a couple things. Internally, we're completing a number of habitat improvement programs we have going on. But of public interest, our staff has been working over the last couple of weeks, in particular with COLA on mitigating the milfoil on both big LCO and little LCO. There's areas of both lakes that have extensive infestations. And so a couple of years ago, we had collaboratively purchased an eco harvester, and that's how we've been doing our best to mitigate the spread of it. But man, we've seen such an increase over the last 2 years, it's not even funny. So that's been a big project of public interest.
Okay, anybody have questions for Brian?
Brian, will there be chemical treatments applied?
No, this eco harvester that we utilize, no, we don't use any kind of herbicide or anything like that to eradicate them.
Okay.
It's basically a machine. It's almost like a combine, a watercraft combine is what we use. And so once we collect the milfoil, it gets disposed of properly. So, but yeah, the spread of it is really getting bad out there. So.
Sounds good, thank you. Okay, Andy, you got the carbon tax credit update?
Yeah, we can give it, closed session.
Oh, okay. Make a motion, I'll make a motion to go into closed session. Second, you got a second on Mr. Sheftick? All in favor, say aye.
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 Does that have to be?
Future business?
Yep, future agenda items.
Okay,
So far, what I have is the discussion regarding the railroad property and the Cooper discussion are both on the agenda for next month. Carbon tax credits too? Okay.
closed session again, okay. Anything else at this time for future agenda items? Okay, we've already gone over number 14, correct?
Yes.
So. Anything correspondence, reports, conferences, meetings to report on? No. So at this time, we don't have any other questions or issues. I will adjourn the meeting.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Yep, have a great day.